You wake up to a sound you can't quite name at first, something between a scream, metal grinding, and the low, wet growl of something that should not exist. The city outside your window is no longer the place you knew a day ago. Sirens overlap with panicked footsteps. Car alarms echo in the distance. A helicopter circles overhead before suddenly cutting out, dropping the street into an eerie silence that lasts only seconds before another wave of chaos erupts. This is the moment you finally understand. Whatever has happened, it's already too late to stop it. Now it's about one thing only: survival. You push open your door and the hallway smells like sweat, dust, and something metallic. Someone has run through recently. Someone else didn't make it as far. And as you step into the stairwell, you hear it clearly for the first time. The dragging shuffle of something moving against the concrete. Slow, methodical, wrong. The infected aren't everywhere yet, but they will be. Every echo in this building proves it. Your heart is hammering, but your mind is already calculating. You know you can't outrun a spreading citywide outbreak. You can't fight what you don't understand, and staying exposed, even for a minute, is a death sentence. You need a place to hide, a place strong enough to keep them out, quiet enough to mask your presence, and smart enough that no one else desperate and irrational will break into it. Most people will pick the wrong place. They always do. Instinct leads them straight into traps, crowded areas, loud structures, obvious shelters. But you aren't most people. You're here because you think like a survivor, and together, we're about to break down the smartest, most scientifically grounded places to hide in a zombie apocalypse, ranked from risky but workable to shockingly effective. And hey, if you enjoy diving into these survival scenarios and want more guides that could save your life when the world goes dark, make sure to subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it means you won't miss the next decision that might keep you alive. When a city collapses into panic, people don't think. They react. And that instinct, the very thing meant to keep you alive, becomes the fastest way to get yourself killed. Because in a zombie outbreak, the places most humans flee toward are the exact same places the infected will swarm. You'll see it the moment you step into the street. Crowds sprinting toward supermarkets, hospitals, parking garages, and shopping centers. They believe these places are safe simply because they're familiar. But familiarity is a trap. Take supermarkets. They look promising: food, water, space, but they're acoustic nightmares. Shelves topple, cans roll, glass breaks. Every sound bounces, amplifies, echoes. Zombies don't need intelligence to hunt you there. The noise does it for them. And once a few survivors get desperate and start fighting over supplies, the entire building becomes a beacon for every infected within a kilometer. Hospitals are even worse. People assume medical help, but what they forget is this: hospitals are where outbreaks start. Tight hallways, panicked patients, too many doors that lock automatically. The infected spread here fast because everything is connected. Air vents, waiting rooms, emergency exits. You step inside one thinking you've reached sanctuary, and find yourself trapped in the single most dangerous building in a crisis. Parking garages and underground lots? They're perfect ambush zones. Concrete pillars create blind spots. Sound carries unpredictably, and there's only ever a handful of exits. Once the infected enter, it becomes a maze of echoes and shadows where even a single zombie can corner you. And shopping malls, those wide-open atriums and glass storefronts, turn into feeding arenas. High visibility sounds good until every direction is a vulnerability. One infected becomes 10, 10 become a tide. Most people will run to these places because fear tells them to join the crowd. But the crowd is the worst enemy in the first 24 hours. If you follow them, you won't make it to hour 25. What most survivors overlook in the first chaotic hours is this: the safest places are rarely the ones that look safe. Your brain is trained to seek comfort, familiarity, and structure. But in a zombie outbreak, survival depends on counterintuitive choices. Spots so ordinary, so unappealing, or so forgotten that almost no one thinks to check them. These aren't fortresses. They aren't stocked shelters. They're the quiet spaces in a collapsing world where invisibility becomes your strongest weapon. Take abandoned storage warehouses. From the outside, they look useless. Dusty metal doors, empty corridors, low value. But that's exactly why they work. No crowds, no noise, thick steel walls, and inside, a grid-like layout with only a few access points you can secure quickly. Zombies don't wander here naturally because there's no movement, no food scent, no human activity. For the first 48 hours of an outbreak, places like this become accidental safe zones simply because nobody cares about them. Open sports fields are even stranger as survival spots. But on a broad, flat field, whether a soccer pitch or a running track, you gain something priceless. Vision. Nothing can sneak up on you, no corners to hide behind, no narrow hallways to funnel danger straight into you. At night, it's exposed. But during the day, it's one of the most predictable environments you can stand on. Then there are old movie theaters, not the active ones where crowds gather in panic, the forgotten dusty ones at the outskirts of town. Thick soundproofing, heavy doors, narrow entrances you can barricade in seconds. They were built to trap sound, and now they trap safety. Once sealed, it's one of the quietest places you can exist in. And high, open rooftops, especially on mid-rise buildings, offer a level of control few survivors consider. Limited access points, clear visibility, natural airflow that carries scent away. You can stay low, stay hidden, and stay ahead of anything climbing up. The trick is this. The smartest early hideouts aren't about strength. They're about being overlooked. The less appealing a place seems to humans, the less likely it is to attract zombies, or desperate survivors willing to fight you for it. Before you can rank the smartest places to hide, you need a framework, a way to judge a location not by gut instinct, but by cold, survival-focused logic. In a zombie apocalypse, emotions distort your decisions. Fear pushes you toward crowds, panic pushes you toward obvious shelters. But a survivor operates by criteria, not impulse, and these criteria will become your mental checklist every time you enter a new structure or territory. The first criterion is defensibility. A good hideout isn't about thick walls alone. It's about controlling access. How many entrances? How easy are they to barricade? Can you create choke points? If a place has more doors than you can realistically secure, it's not a sanctuary. It's a trap waiting to snap shut. Next is sound profile. Every building has an acoustic personality. Some amplify noise, carrying it through hallways like a megaphone. Others swallow sound, letting you move in near silence. You must ask, if something falls, if you step wrong, if you breathe too loudly, will the echo carry farther than you can afford? Then comes visibility, not for hiding, but for predicting danger. High vantage points extend your reaction window. Clear lines of sight give you time to reposition, flee, or set up defenses before the infected even realize you're there. Any location where you can't see movement approaching is a location that reduces your lifespan. Escape routes are equally crucial. A place with only one exit feels secure, until that exit is compromised. You need at least two ways out, one intentional, one improvisational, like a window, a roof ladder, an exterior balcony, anything that gives you a second chance. Finally, sustainability. Water, ventilation, access to scavenging routes, proximity to choke-free pathways. A hideout that keeps you alive for one night, but guarantees starvation or entrapment later, is just a slower way to die. When you combine these criteria, you begin to see each building not as a shelter, but as a system. Some systems protect you, others camouflage you, and some try to kill you the moment you step inside. Industrial zones and factory complexes might seem like bleak, lifeless stretches of concrete and steel, but in a zombie apocalypse, that's exactly what gives them power. These places weren't built for comfort. They were built for durability, controlled access, and heavy operations. And when the world collapses, those features suddenly become survival assets most people never think to use. As you approach a factory district, the first thing you'll notice is silence. Not natural silence, but the absence of civilians. No crowds, no traffic, no panic. When society falls, people don't run toward these areas. They flee away from them. That gives you something rare during an outbreak. Territory the infected aren't naturally drawn to. Zombies follow sound, movement, scent. Industrial zones offer none of that in the early hours. Inside a factory, you gain defensibility almost immediately. These buildings are designed with limited access points, massive doors that lock, loading bays that can be sealed, and emergency exits reinforced by industrial-grade steel. One person with basic tools can secure an entire complex faster than you could barricade a single-floor apartment. And once locked down, the structure holds firm. Concrete walls, metal frames, reinforced floors, these places can take hits from machinery. A few infected slamming against them barely registers. What makes factories particularly valuable is the abundance of materials you can repurpose. Metal pipes become weapons. Welding tools become reinforcement systems. Chains, pallets, steel bars, wire, everything around you can be turned into a barrier, a trap, or a fallback defense. It's one of the few environments where you can engineer your security instead of simply hiding behind it. The downside is noise. Factories echo. Every footstep, every dropped tool, every whisper can bounce unpredictably across the space. If you're careless, you turn the entire place into an acoustic alarm system broadcasting your location. The trick is to stay low, move deliberately, and isolate yourself in smaller interior rooms where the sound dampens. And yet, despite its flaws, the industrial zone earns its place on the ranking because of one undeniable truth. It gives a lone survivor the ability to control territory. Not hide, not cower. Control. In a world collapsing into chaos, that alone can mean the difference between making it through the night or becoming part of the noise outside. Water has always been a natural barrier, predictable, unforgiving, and difficult for the infected to navigate. That's why locations built around it, docks, marinas, and small boathouses, rank surprisingly high as survival hideouts. At first glance, these places look too open, too exposed. But in a zombie apocalypse, openness can be an advantage, and the water itself becomes your strongest line of defense. When you arrive at a dock or marina, the first thing you notice is the spacing. Long, narrow walkways, clear sight lines, few angles where anything can approach without being seen. Zombies struggle with balance, coordination, and irregular surfaces. Wooden planks and swaying platforms become natural filters, slowing them down or knocking them into the water before they reach you. You're effectively turning the environment itself into a defensive mechanism. Boathouses, especially the smaller ones used for maintenance or storage, are even better. They're compact, easy to secure, and often built with only one or two entrances. Thick doors, sturdy frames, and inside, tools, ropes, fuel containers, spare parts, everything you need to improvise weapons, barricades, or even flotation devices. Few survivors think to check these structures, which means fewer confrontations, fewer territorial disputes, and far fewer desperate people bringing noise and chaos with them. But the real power of water-linked locations lies in escape potential. If you manage to secure a small boat, even an old fishing vessel, you gain something priceless: mobility without roads. Zombies can't swim well. Many can't swim at all. A few steps into the water and they sink, thrashing aimlessly beneath the surface. Out on open water, you're nearly unreachable. And even if you stay docked, the ability to push off and vanish at a moment's notice gives you an advantage almost no land-based shelter can offer. Of course, these locations aren't perfect. Wind carries sound across the water. At night, light from your hideout reflects, making you visible from a distance. And storms can turn a safe zone into a death trap. But with careful movement, darkness discipline, and smart positioning, the pros outweigh the risks. In the early days of an outbreak, when land becomes unpredictable and crowds turn violent, docks and marinas offer something rare: space, silence, and a clear perimeter you can monitor with ease. You're not just hiding, you're watching, waiting, and ready to move before danger reaches you. Height has always been one of humanity's greatest survival advantages, and in a zombie apocalypse, rooftops become something close to a temporary kingdom. Not the skyscraper rooftops you see in movies. Those are too high, too exposed, too difficult to descend from if something goes wrong. The ideal sanctuary is a mid-rise rooftop, 5 to 10 stories up, elevated enough to avoid danger but still physically accessible if you need to escape fast. When you reach a rooftop, the world changes instantly. The chaos of the streets becomes distant. The screams fade. The infected below move like shadows, unaware of your presence. Up here, you gain control, not through walls, but through perspective. You can see danger long before it reaches you. You can watch patterns, movement, density. Every minute on a rooftop expands your awareness of the city's collapse, giving you the information you need to choose your next move. Defensibility is one of the rooftop's greatest strengths. There are usually only 1 or 2 access points: a stairwell door, an elevator shaft, or a maintenance ladder. These choke points can be barricaded easily with minimal tools. And because zombies have poor climbing ability and limited problem-solving skills, a secured rooftop can stay untouched for hours, even days, without a single breach attempt. Airflow also works in your favor. Wind disperses scent, reduces heat signatures, and makes it harder for the infected to track you. It carries sound upward instead of outward, reducing the risk of alerting anything nearby. And at night, you can move in near silence under the cover of darkness without worrying about echoing footsteps bouncing off walls like in confined indoor spaces. But perhaps the most overlooked advantage is resource scavenging. From a rooftop, you can plan your routes. You can map safe paths, identify choke points, and avoid crowds. You can pick your next target building with precision instead of guesswork. While others wander blindly into danger, you operate with a bird's-eye view. Of course, rooftops aren't perfect. Heat during the day, cold at night, limited cover. And if you're careless with light or noise, you turn yourself into a beacon for desperate survivors, who can be just as dangerous as the infected. But the key is movement discipline. Stay low, stay quiet, stay invisible. Mid-rise rooftops earn their place near the top of the ranking because they give you something no ground-level shelter can offer: time. Time to observe, time to think, and time to plan your next step before the world below swallows you whole. Distance is one of the oldest forms of protection. When cities burn and streets choke with panic, the remote wilderness becomes a different kind of refuge. Quiet, spacious, and far away from the chaos that fuels the spread of infection. That's why remote cabins and wilderness shelters rank so high on the survival list. They don't just hide you. They remove you from the outbreak's gravitational pull. When you reach a cabin deep in the woods, the first thing you feel is the silence. Not the tense silence of an empty street, but a natural stillness. No engines, no alarms, no clusters of terrified people creating noise that attracts the infected. Zombies follow stimulus, and wilderness offers almost none. If the outbreak begins in urban centers, the woods won't see significant infected presence for days, sometimes longer. That delay is priceless. Cabins themselves are built for isolation. Thick wooden walls retain heat. Entrances are minimal and easy to defend. Windows are few and can be reinforced quickly with whatever materials you have on hand. Most cabins are elevated slightly off the ground, limiting blind spots and giving you clear visibility in every direction. And because they're designed for long-term stays, you'll often find tools, firewood, or old supplies that previous owners left behind. But the strongest advantage is nature itself. Fresh water from nearby streams. Edible plants if you know what to look for. Fishing opportunities. Small game trails. In the city, survival is a scramble for dwindling resources. In the wilderness, resources replenish themselves. You're not competing with 100 other desperate survivors for a single can of food. You're using the environment as your lifeline. However, wilderness survival comes with its own risks. The deeper you go, the harder it becomes to navigate without skill. Predators, wolves, bears, even aggressive territorial animals can be as dangerous as the infected. Weather becomes an enemy if you're unprepared. Cold nights, heavy rain, or sudden storms can kill faster than any zombie. And the isolation that protects you can also haunt you. If something goes wrong, a broken leg, a bad fall, there's no help coming. Another challenge is fire. Heat is essential, but smoke is visible for miles. A careless flame can turn your sanctuary into a signal flare for both zombies and wandering survivors. Out here, stealth is everything. Still, remote cabins earn their place high in the rankings because they offer what cities can't: stable, sustainable quiet. You're not just delaying danger, you're stepping out of its path entirely. With knowledge, patience, and discipline, the wilderness can become your longest-lasting refuge, as long as you never mistake isolation for invincibility. You probably didn't expect this rank. Most people imagine schools and universities as chaotic danger zones during an outbreak. Packed hallways, panicked crowds, too many rooms to secure. But once the initial wave passes and the buildings empty out, reinforced educational complexes become some of the smartest, most structurally reliable shelters you can find. And not by accident. These places were engineered to protect large groups of people. In a crisis, that design plays directly to your advantage. When you approach a school campus after the collapse, the first thing you'll notice is its layout. Multiple buildings, wide courtyards, long visibility corridors. These aren't cramped, unpredictable spaces like hospitals. They're open environments where you can monitor movement from a distance. Zombies struggle with obstacles and lack the coordination to navigate scattered furniture, elevation changes, and locked interior wings. A campus turns their weaknesses into your defenses. Once inside, the benefits become even more obvious. Educational buildings are built with reinforced walls, fire doors, and heavy-duty security locks meant to withstand emergencies. Classrooms can be sealed off quickly. Laboratory wings often have airtight doors and controlled ventilation systems that you can repurpose. Libraries offer quiet, insulated rooms with thick walls, ideal for resting or setting up a low-profile base. And gymnasiums, despite their size, have high visibility and limited entry points you can secure with almost anything. But the real secret lies in resources. Schools were designed to support hundreds or thousands of people at once. That means large restrooms with multiple water tanks, cafeterias with industrial equipment, maintenance rooms filled with tools, storage closets with cleaning supplies, first aid kits, sports gear, electrical panels, all the materials you need to build stronger defenses or establish long-term sustainability. It's one of the few places where you can survive without immediately scavenging from outside. And then there are the research complexes, university science buildings, engineering departments, or experimental labs. These areas often contain advanced filtration systems, backup generators, protective gear, emergency showers, sturdy metal fixtures, and sometimes even small stockpiles of chemicals or equipment that can be repurposed for survival. No other ranked location gives you this combination of durability, resources, and multi-layered defensive options. Of course, these buildings can be vast, and complexity can be a weakness if you don't understand the layout. It's easy to get lost or to overlook a door that wasn't secured, and other survivors may target these places precisely because they hold supplies. But if you arrive early, or claim a wing and fortify it smartly, a campus becomes a fortress disguised as a learning center. Reinforced educational complexes take the top spot because they offer something almost no other hideout can provide: longevity. Not just a place to hide for a day or two, but a structure built to support human life on a large scale. A place where you can breathe, regroup, plan, and maybe start rebuilding something that resembles safety. Survival isn't just about choosing the right shelter. It's about understanding what that choice really means. When you finally find a place strong enough to hold, quiet enough to think, and stable enough to keep you alive longer than a few desperate hours, something unexpected happens. The panic fades. Your heartbeat slows. The world outside becomes a distant hum instead of an immediate threat. For a moment, a brief, fragile moment, you feel something dangerous: relief. But here's the truth most survivors never accept until it's too late. A hideout doesn't save you. It only buys time, time to rest, time to plan, time to figure out your next move before the infection evolves, before the city shifts, before other survivors grow hungrier, more aggressive, more desperate. Safety in a zombie apocalypse is never permanent. It's a loan, and the world always collects. As you settle into your final ranked shelter, The one built with reinforced walls, long corridors, multiple escape routes, and enough resources to last. You let yourself breathe. You sit against a wall, listening to the quiet. The kind of quiet no one has heard since the world fell apart. And for a moment you believe you've made it. You believe you might have outsmarted the collapse. Then you hear it. A sound you hoped never to hear again. A single sharp metallic echo from somewhere inside the building. Not outside. Not at the perimeter. Inside. Close. Too close. It could be a survivor. It could be something else. It could be the beginning of a new threat you weren't prepared for. The kind that turns even the smartest hideout into a cage. Your breath freezes. The silence stretches. And as you rise slowly to your feet, you understand. Surviving this world isn't about finding the perfect place. It's about being ready when perfection cracks. If you want to explore what happens next, how you investigate that sound, what choices determine your fate, and how long your fortress stays a fortress, make sure you're here for the next scenario. Because in a world like this, every decision is life or death, and the next one is coming sooner than you think.